Yo, welcome to another episode of Stuck in the Middle podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Reflex. Got my brother
And
AP
I'm the other
joining me
host,
from
Uncle
Michigan.
AK. Yes, sir.
Yes. Oh,
How
it's a
you feeling,
blessing,
man?
We're able to do this virtually. I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. Blessed every day above ground, and this time it's a day to give thanks. You know what I mean? Blessed to be alive. But appreciate everybody listening in the car right now, wherever you're going. Joining us from YouTube. Hit that ring or subscribe
Mm-hmm.
if you're a first time listener,
Mm-hmm.
so you get updates every time we put out new content. This is Stuck in the Middle podcast, a platform for entrepreneurs, innovators, creatives of African descent. Where you hear stories, ideas, experiences, and advice on how we can break the mold, how we can break barriers. This particular episode is brought to you by our store. So if you visit sitmpodcast.com/story shop Stuck in Middle podcast merge, that's how we're able to drive this machine forward. We got a special guest joining us from Philly. She is the founder and host of Revive Radio Show. Please welcome Tamara Russell, aka Proof of Consciousness P.O.C.
Yes,
to Stuck in
yes.
Middle podcast. How you doing? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm
That's
excited
cool.
to be, on the podcast with you guys. I've been definitely checking out the podcast, doing my Google searches. So I appreciate you guys for allowing me to come through. And shout out to your team too. I cannot remember her name right now off the top of my head, but she was amazing
Ma.
as far as following up and, just being on it with the emails and everything. So I just want to make sure I shout her out too.
Yeah,
Appreciate
so
it. Thank you, Marcy.
listen. Man, I want to start here, right? Proof of consciousness, P.O.C. How did you come up with
Yes.
that name? Who gave you that name? It's
Yes.
a pretty dope name. Talk to us about that.
It's different.
P.O.C. Yes, P.O.C. And the crazy part is some people actually, when they see it, they don't even, break it down as an acronym. They just straight out say POC. So I actually took in that, that name as well when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to embracing P.O.C. But proof of consciousness actually came through me having conversation. As we all know, I'm someone who loves to talk, to run my mouth, and I was in a heated conversation about, just what we should do as far as the movement. We were talking about the movement at this time. This is when the whole Trayvon Martin and everything was going down in Baton Rouge and, Louisiana. And I was having a conversation, and when I finished speaking, someone was like, yeah, that's proof of consciousness right there. That's proof that she got consciousness. And I just ran with it. I was like, yeah, that is me. That's me, P.O.C. That's proof of consciousness. So that honestly just came out of me having a conversation, opening my mouth at the right time, and I, spoke, and someone felt it, and they just pretty much threw that out there. I would say they named me. I don't even know the
Mm-hmm.
guy. Honestly, I don't know the guy. I just ran with that conversation. So that's how.
Would you attribute consciousness and the proof of consciousness to being woke? And what does being woke mean to you?
No, not necessarily. If I'm gonna just put it in like 100% pie, I will be like, 60-40, when it comes down to consciousness. Consciousness is really just being aware, just honestly being aware of what's going on around you, different things like that. So that's really what I took, from the actual definition of consciousness. And that's where even Revive comes in, because Revive actually has the word consciousness in the definition of it, which is to restore life, health, and consciousness. So that's what it's all about. So when it comes down to the woke part, that's really like a thing I would say that our generation just really tapped into, and it just became, a movement or a wave that we was riding as far as being woke. But that's just another way of just saying, you have some type of mindset, or you have some knowledge, I would say, wrapped around whatever conversation you're in at that time. But it's, you can be woke on Black issues, but you cannot be woke on feminist issues, or,
or financial issues.
Yeah, it's a lot of different issues that when it comes to being this woke thing, so I just really think that was like a buzzword.
Yeah.
Last time you're gonna hear me say your government name, who is Tamara, aka P.O.C. That's the last time you go hear him say government name. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Tell my mom
No,
that too.
Tell your mom that. Yeah, who is Tamara?
Oh, Tamara. So now I understand what you're saying. Yes. Oh, Tamara, she is a 28-year-old woman. I'm still learning, still growing every day, figuring out, the world of what adult ish really is about, as far as being an entrepreneur, as well as being a 20-year-old woman, you know what I mean? Being able to still be able to take care of myself, handle my bills. Because like I said, I am in Philadelphia, but I'm originally from Washington, D.C. So I'm in Philly by myself. So a lot of things that I'm learning as I'm growing into this adulthood, that's really where I'm at. So as far as Tamara, she plays basketball. She a fake rapper from time to time. You know, she loves to cook. She loves smoothies. She's just very, you know, bubbly and very energetic as well. That's how it
Two
really
things we have in
got me.
common. Two things me and you have in common off the bat. I'm about to turn 28 in 3 days, and I just had a smoothie.
I just had one too. Happy birthday, yo! Taurus
Appreciate it.
season.
Appreciate it. So
Yes.
you're the host of Revive on an internet radio show stream on Time for an Awakening every Wednesday 8 to 10.
Yes. So I started out on Time for an Awakening. So right now when I do Time for an Awakening, it's just my pre-recorded shows. So Time for an Awakening was my original platform. Shout out to Elliot Booker, who is the founder and creator of Time for an Awakening. He really taught me and molded me a lot when it came down to this internet radio stuff. Because when I first got started, I got started in my internship, which was a syndicated FM station or AM station, both here in the city of Philadelphia. So when it came down to learning the internet side of it, it wasn't, you know, too difficult to get a hang of it, but it was definitely different from being in an actual station. So the creator of Time for an Awakening took me under his wing and really, you know, taught me how to get this thing jumping. So yeah, so Time for an Awakening is definitely a platform that.
For somebody interested in radio right now, where would you point them to? As somebody who's been on both sides of the pendulum, internet radio or, you know, saying traditional FM AM route right now in this climate of entertainment?
I would say do both.
And what's the difference?
There's a difference. I can explain that, but I would definitely say do both. If you really think about it, everyone is doing both. Even when it comes down to the biggest syndicated, you know, radio host now, like Charlamagne the God, he has a podcast and he has a radio station, Ebro in the morning. They take their entire show from, you know, Hot 107 directly to their podcast on Apple Music. So it's no way for you to not do both. And if you're not doing both, then you're not really trying to capitalize off this. And then as far as the difference is on internet radio and also podcasting, you have the ability to be extremely open and honest in yourself. There's no real rules that you have to follow. Other than if you have like sponsors and advertisers and things like that, but there's no real rules that you have to follow. So if you want to say the B word, the F word, you know what I mean? You want to say vulgar language, you can get that off your chest. If you want to go into a religious type of conversation, you can do that. And then on syndicated radio, which is, you know, governed by the FCC, you're not able to do that.
Yeah. What are some things that listeners coming into Revive Radio or Time for an Awakening can expect? Like, you know, so somebody who's unaware of what you do in your program, like what is it about, segments, like break it down for us.
You can really catch anything on Revive. We are someone, you know, this is a platform that really taps into like-minded individuals such as artists, entrepreneurs, small companies, big businesses, you know, whether it's just your community leaders. Like yesterday, we had the opportunity of interviewing the city commissioner here in the city of Philadelphia, talking about voting and how your vote can still count, you know, during the COVID. So we talk about anything from trending topics, current events, politics, sports, everything and anything is really the main focus of Revive Radio. We want to be that glue as far as putting that unity back in community with independent media, not necessarily taking it extremely mainstream.
Revive, what does that mean? How did you come up with that name?
Well, like I said, it really just stemmed from consciousness, the proof of consciousness. So proof of consciousness came first, and then Revive just tapped into it pretty much because of the definition. And in that definition, like I said, with Revive is the word consciousness. So it really just rolled into each other. And that's really what I'm trying to do, not trying to do. That's really what I am doing as far as the definition, as far as restoring life, health, and consciousness within my community, as well as, you know, outside communities that are also tapped in as well.
What's the reach as far as, you know, you being from here, the city, DMV area, and right now in Philly, what's your reach as far as Revive? No, that's the benefit of it being online, but, you know, I don't know if you know what your demographic is.
Yes, and I was just going to say that that's the benefit of being online and also truly being blessed. I have had the opportunities of traveling. So in 2018, I went to about 4 to 5 different countries, and in that time, I broadcast, I interviewed, I even tapped into some of their media over there where they allowed me to come through and be a guest. So as far as reach, we have been in different countries, we have been in different continents, we have had the opportunity of, you know, being on the West Coast and doing different things too here in the United States. So we have really had an opportunity to spread a lot throughout my travels. That's the best part about internet. You can take it wherever you go. As long as you have Wi-Fi, you're plugged in.
Yes. Wi-Fi and a device to record.
Yes.
Do you think communication is a key component to bringing back unity in our communities, or respect?
That's a great question, and I'm glad that you asked me that. So, AK, so I truly been like tapping in as far as like reading and a lot of writing throughout this quarantine, break that we have had. And one thing that I just read literally on like Thursday was that communication, yes, is key, but communication without reciprocation is nothing. So if we don't have the reciprocation within that communication, it's really not the key to whatever you want to unlock within yourself or that person. So that's definitely like another level of communication that I'm now trying or doing my best to tap into at this point. So when you ask me about communication, I'm still really learning in what it really means to be a great communicator. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah.
How did you get started in this though? How did you get started in this industry of, me personally, I studied, mass communication in college, did a 5-year gig in television with C-SPAN, and then now have transitioned.
Go ahead and run down that resume.
Hey.
Run down that resume. Yes.
Over here flexing.
How did you get started though? Like, you know what I mean? How did you get started? And just walk us through like your background for somebody who might think, it's all glitz and glamour, like the struggles,
no,
the
not even
highs,
a
the
little
lows.
bit. Yo, and the crazy part is this was not my dream when I first started. This was not even a passion of mine when I first started. This is really, if I can speak on it, God just showing me what I really needed to tackle at that time in order to step into, who I am at this time right now. But I started out wanting to be the first woman in the NBA. All I wanted to do was play basketball. I went to school on a full ride playing basketball. So that was my entire, motive in college, was to play basketball, to play sports, and just grind on that so I can make money off that some way, somehow. I ended up getting injured my junior year of college, meaning that I was not able to play my senior year of college because, in the NCAA, you can't play, you don't get no scholarship. So I had to just go to school as a regular student, and then going to school as a regular student. And at that time, I was like, dang, like, what am I going to do with my life? My whole life shifted. And I ended up graduating with a business marketing degree from Cheney University. Shout out to the first HBCU. So when I graduated, I want to make sure I shut that out. But when I graduated with a marketing degree, my advisor was helping me out. I was like, yo, we have this internship. They're looking for someone to do their social media marketing. I was like, bet, I'm in. I applied. I got it. But guess what? It was at a radio station. That's how I got in. So I was at a radio station, and shout out to Sadia Durant. She's actually the one that truly plugged me into this internship at 900 AM WRD, which is a radio station here in the city of Philadelphia, the first and the only Black-owned radio station in the state of Pennsylvania. So I want to shout that out too. But yeah, so Sadia really helped me to get in with this radio station after I figured out what it was, because she was already an intern there. I got in, I got the intern, and I was internship, and I was just doing their social media. So I was in the background, I was watching all the people come in, get the interviews. Like, that was my gig, that was my job. So as I was seeing him, it looks exciting, but it looks exciting from the lens of me taking pictures or making or creating stories. So one day he had asked a question, and he was like, I need a millennial perspective. I need you to sit down and I need your opinion about, this topic. And I sat down at the mic, and when I tell you guys, like, I never got back up. That was the only thing I wanted to do from that time. I sat at that mic. And from there, I asked him the next day, like, what you did for me was something that I've never felt before, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, okay, if you really want this, then you got to come on extra days. So he ended up giving me like 2 days extra in my internship. He was like, you got to come on Saturdays. And he just taught me and he molded me. Shout out to Solomon Jones and Keaton. And they came through. And the producer, he just took me under his wing, taught me all the big buttons and how to, do what I had to do. And then from there, it just became like a life. It became a lifestyle of mine. It became everything to me.
You mentioned, first wanting to be the first, female WNBA, the radio station and different, first Black entities that you've been a part of. Just walk us through a little bit about the struggles that personally you had to face as a Black woman, in your journey right now to where you are right now?
That's a great question. As far as the radio side, I haven't really felt, too much discrimination, because if you think about it, in radio, there's a lot of Black women in radio at this time. We're really booming in that industry, as well as podcasts. We're coming up with different ideas, different, topics and content to talk about. So that's not a problem on the radio side. But as far as the media, because with Revive Radio, we also do Revive Media, and that's when we go out and do the red carpets and, all the glitz and glamour type things. So I have felt that, discrimination as far as being on different red carpets. One, because I'm an African-American woman, I have dreads, I have locks, you know what I mean? And I don't necessarily always dress the par of what red carpet media correspondent would look like at the time. So when I'm on carpets like the BET Awards or the Philadelphia Fashion Show, or just different things like that, I'm not necessarily looked at as, oh, I want to make sure I go talk to her first. So I've definitely had that feeling in the media industry.
You mentioned Revive Media and whatnot. Right now, I feel like it's the best time for internet radio. It's like those who do podcasting, right? Like when you go to the studio, you have that feel, you're vibing with people, you get to talk to people. With this lockdown, everything is done through Zoom or whichever medium that anybody chooses. How has this lockdown impacted you, both positively and negatively?
Positively, I'm going to start there because I want to be a positive person today. So positively, it has impacted me as far as just taking a seat and looking inwards instead of, being trapped into what was going on. So for personally, me, I was tackling on a lot of things as it was happening. And with this quarantine, I was able to just sit down and, flush through it, or really review why I wanted to take this gig, or why should I not take this gig, instead of just taking it because it was, on my calendar. At first I wasn't even looking at it. I was like, okay, it's on there. But then I got to look and I'm like, why am I doing this? Where, how is this benefiting us? So I definitely had the, opportunity of just sitting down and fleshing out bigger ideas, creating more ideas, and then also, getting with people such as yourself and having time to speak with other content creators to see how we can collaborate, because there's going to be a lot of collaborations that's going to have to happen in order for us all to get back to where we were individually, because the spaces and venues and everything are going to get smaller based on, the fact that we have to social distance. So it's like really how much individual work can be done and really be successful. So that's something that I've been tapping into. But then as far as like the negative side of things, money, financially, I'm not working. You know what I mean? I'm an entrepreneur, so I get up every day and I make a brown penny based on what I do within those 24 hours. So the fact that I've been in the house for 7 weeks now, I'm like, yo, what's going on? You know what I mean? And I'm thinking like, how can I make a way off of this virtual thing? And I'm like, yeah, that's just not me. I'm a people's person. So I definitely have been set back a lot financially as far as not being able to work. And then everything that I had planned, like Coachella, Broccoli Fest, the Roots Picnic, all of these things have been canceled. So these are like big media bucks for me, and these things are canceled.
Man, speaking of collaboration. Speaking of collaboration, sorry, AK. We were supposed to come up to, I don't know if it was we were supposed to come up to Philly.
Yes, to do the interview.
And be on the show, and then they turned into the phone call that didn't materialize, and now the lockdown.
Yes. Time. But I think it happened for a reason, though. You know what I mean? I think all of this truly happened for a reason, and it's how we are looking at it. So I'm glad that you asked what's the positive and the negative.
Thanks. You serve on the board of the programming committee on the Leadership Council, the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists and Women in Media. Can you talk to us about that? What is that? How did you get with it? What did they do?
So right now, I did do that. As far as women in media, I'm still there. But as far as the Philadelphia Black Associated Journalists, I am now just a member. I didn't have enough time, prior to, so I just had to become a member. So I want to just make that a point too. I don't want to put myself in a position I'm no longer in. But as far as women in media, it's a great position to be in, because you are able to be around like-minded people. You're able to be around women, who have, the same desires and aspirations that you have. And it's more about uplifting when the moments where you feel like you don't have it to keep going, or you feel like your content is not enough, you can really sit by, you know, a woman who can help you and develop you, you know, into something that you're trying to create. So I would definitely say being in that position is definitely helpful for me, because it's inspiring hearing the stories from other women, and then also me being able to tap into them, you know, and being vulnerable at times as well.
What are 3 or 5 characteristics you would say one needs, female or male, to become a radio personality?
One needs.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great question. One need. I'm going to say you're going to need to know thyself. You're going to need to know yourself. If this is something you truly want to do, you have to know yourself before you get all the way into it. Because if you don't, you're going to lose a lot. You know what I mean? You're going to get lost in a lot of different spaces, and you're going to get exposed. Exposure is going to be a thing. You know what I mean? Because when you get in this industry, it's going to be easily just to do some Google. It's going to be easily just to do some research, you know, and just really point out what's real and what's an illusion. So just be yourself. You're going to need to be
Do you need a
yourself.
degree?
Do
you need a degree for this?
No. Think about Charlamagne the God. He's one of the hottest radio hosts, you know what I mean, in America right now. And he literally will tell you and flaunt that he has never went to college.
Yeah. It's all about that you know who and that personality.
That's facts.
What's the you know who? What's the you know who?
Like the connections in the network, your network.
You think so?
Would you agree? Would you agree? No? I don't know. I just made that up.
No. I think I do think that it's like the network that you create to make some net worth. You know what I mean? So it's not just about your network, because you can have 100 people around you and none of them are benefiting you. Think about these rappers. You know, they come through with a posse of people and none of them have over $20 in their pocket. You know, they just look like they do. So I wouldn't necessarily say just entirety off your network. I would definitely say it's off of your work, period. The type of grind and consistency that will really show up in the eyes of people that you want to pay attention to you. So the more consistent you are, I feel like that would be the real key to creating that network that will get you some net worth.
I like that. Tamara, I got time for a 4-question game if you are ready.
I'm ready. I'm with it.
What is the number 1 song on your playlist right now?
Oh, that's great. I'm going to go with Chronic's. Hold on, it's right here.
Skankin' Sweet.
No. It's off his new album, Eternal Light. Chronic's.
I like that one.
Yes, Eternal
What
Light.
are you not very good at?
Something that I'm learning that I'm not very good at is listening. I'm gonna go. People always say I need to listen when I talk. I talk too much. Yes, I'm gonna say listening.
Describe the color yellow to somebody who was born blind.
Somebody who was born blind. Describe the color yellow. Oh, that's a great one. I'm gonna go with light. The first thing that came to my head, light.
They're gonna be like, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that don't even make sense, but because they're blind, right? Dang, that don't even make sense. All right, pineapples.
The taste of pineapple. I'm gonna be like the feeling of sun on your body. We just gonna go with that.
All right, perfect. Thank you for helping me. I appreciate that.
What are you most curious about right now? It could be anything. The first thing that comes to your mind that you're most curious about right now.
The new normal, or back to normal. You know, whatever society keeps saying, like we're gonna have to go back to a new normal, or things are gonna go back to normal in about 2 weeks, or whatever the heck that is. So whatever normal is, that's what I'm curious about the most right now.
Man, I don't want to go back to normal, because then we're gonna be back where we started.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's find a new path forward. But yeah, that's all for the game. You did good.
Thank you. My bad on the yellow question.
I was over here dying, man. I was, how do you even describe that? But what advice do you have for any young lady or man who wants to venture into communication, radio, TV, all that stuff, social media, marketing, network marketing, all that? What advice do you have for them?
Something that I always say is greatness is a choice. You know what I mean? That's really a quote that I live by. Greatness is a choice. So if you really want it, you have to really honestly choose to be great. And that means honestly understanding that being uncomfortable is okay. You know, truly being comfortable with being uncomfortable. You're going to be in situations where you're going to want to sleep in for another 5 minutes. But if you sleep in for 5 minutes, you won't be the first person there who's 15 minutes early. You know what I mean? So just truly being uncomfortable at a lot of times and embracing that uncomfortability, because when you go through uncomfortable situations, it actually helps you to grow and it challenges you to be in a different position than where you were when you first walked through the door or before you even got the key to get in that door. So yeah.
I dig it.
Appreciate
How can people
it.
get in contact with you, you know, for more insights and how, you know, saying they can listen in to the radio show and everything?
Definitely. So you can definitely check me out each and every morning, 7 a.m. We normally do a morning show, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. On reviveisalive.com, but we switched up the schedule during quarantine. So every Monday and Wednesday it's 11 to 1, and every Tuesday and Thursday it is 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then on Fridays, we actually on an FM dial now. We're on 98.5 FM radio here in the city of Philadelphia. So you can check us out every Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. We got the Tri-State Midday Mix, where you can definitely check us out on reviveisalive.com. Hit us up on social media at revive_P.O.C. I'm always looking for artists to send their music my way to get into the quality mix. So you can send me your music at revive.poc@gmail.com. Once again, that's revive.poc@gmail.com.
Does it matter what kind of music?
No, it doesn't matter what kind of music, but I do prefer that it be radio edited, so it can actually stay in rotation whenever. When you do have certain music that has profanity in it, we typically play it on the late night, hours. So because it is internet radio, we have the ability to play music with curse words in it, but not during the day. We try so much to do so because we want everyone to be, listening to what we have playing.
Yeah, man, my ears are fragile, man. Don't be cussing out people's music.
Yeah, try and mix it up, but we definitely want people to be creative too.
Yeah, man, I'm eating. That's the benefit of remote work. My bad, y'all. Hey, working from home, saying now. Appreciate you so much, Tamara Russell, aka P.O.C. Proof of Consciousness, for kicking it with us this Saturday afternoon.
I appreciate you guys for having me once again. This is what it's all about, and that's one of the reasons why I reached out to get on. Is because creating with other creators is really what expands the conversation. We're just sitting on the mic talking to ourselves and our supporters. Eventually it's going to be like, all right, I want somebody else's opinion. It's cool when you have these interviews because we're getting to know someone. That's cool. But as far as just content, like sitting down and talking about the quarantine, not just hearing it from my perspective, or hearing it from AK's perspective. So it's definitely cool to have other creators come through and just really vibe out. So
yeah, facts. So get to know you deeper than they previously did.
And I got a question for you guys. Do I have like another 10 minutes before y'all dip out, or y'all gotta go now?
No, yeah, go ahead.
No, because I wanted to just vibe out on some actual content, some things that are going on as far as current events. And I wanted to know, as far as the stimulus check, right? A lot of us, especially millennials, our generation, we got excited. We're like 1,200, 24, I really want this money. But at the same time, it's like, what are you going to do with the money? How are you spending the money? A lot of us have rent, we have mortgage we have to pay that we're not necessarily going to pay at this time because we don't know where we're going to get our next paycheck. So what's your thoughts right now as far as just that stimulus check?
I think it was a decoy because they haven't, saying that month has passed now, and there's no talks of a second check coming in. Like somebody like me, I still haven't gotten my check, but
me neither.
If I were, you know what I mean? Like if I got it, you know what I mean? Like I'm automatically thinking like get myself out of debt, starting small and building up. Yeah. So he was already spent in, you know what I mean? Like a credit card, debt. He was just gonna go pay off a credit card or a car loan or whatever. Not really looking to get, I know friends who have gotten new pair of Jordans or, I'm saying, like actually pay bills or whatever, but it was really gonna be, used back into, for me personally, something that was productive. But I think I don't really see the benefit of the check, because just personally speaking, it really, the way I see it was a decoy to just, because we haven't got talks of when we're gonna reopen, and there's still gonna be bills. It's already the first of the month, so where we gonna get money to pay this month's rent, right? So I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, for me, I heard people talking about it like an expectation type of thing. It's like, yo, y'all owe me this, I give this to me, or when is mine coming, blah, blah. The stress and tripping about it. I'm just saying, like, I mean, in a way, like, if this was not coming, what would you have done, right? What would you have done for me? I mean, I got mine, but I haven't accessed it yet, right? I don't want to go through that whole email thing to get the password, reset the password, and then get into the account because it's a whole different account now. So I just left it where it's at, and just go by my normal day. I just know that's there for a rainy day. If in case I ever need it, I'm gonna grab it. But for now,
shout out to you for getting that check.
Right? Yo, I need that job.
I need mine too.
I've been checking Friday.
Oh, so you had yours for? I'm about to say you had yours for a while
Good
now.
Friday, yeah.
Oh yes, that was definitely a good Friday for you then.
It's what is it? It's 2:00. I done checked my account 4 times already. I need the money. Yeah. What that commercial say? It's my money and I need it now.
Yes. Fact. Are you guys? Are you guys really into like politics or anything?
I am, but by virtue of my job, I can't really speak too much on politics. But I dibble and dabble around, saying not to get myself in trouble. But I can answer some questions. Shoot, I'm ready.
No, I just wanted to know, like, as far as how America handled the situation. Of course, it was a pandemic, so it affected other countries, not just the country that we live in. But as far as this country handling the situation, this was a first for most of us, or recognizing a pandemic, because we had one in 2009, but it wasn't as big as this one, right? So as far as recognizing the pandemic, attacking these situations, and then finding a solution, do you think our country did a good job? You're gonna rate it a 1 through 10, and 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, and then give me an explanation.
I'm gonna, speaking of stimulus check and taxes, I'm gonna rate it into two, federal and state. Federal wise, I would say a 7.
Okay.
Because we were way behind the ball as far as, like, we were in a reactive, like mode as opposed to, what's the word? We reacted as opposed to being in the position to, like prevent thousands and thousands and thousands.
And you give them a 7?
Lives being lost. I would give him. That's being very generous. That's very generous.
That's the first thing that came to your mind.
That's the first thing that came to my mind. But it's in retrospect, in second thought, I would say probably like a 5.5, 6. But state-wise, because I live in Maryland, and our governor is Larry Hogan. He has been awesome.
Okay.
Maryland has been like, Larry Hogan has been like, I would give him a solid 8 and a half.
Shout out to the Democrats.
Yeah, even though we've had like over 1,000 deaths, I would say Larry Hogan has been solid in how he's responded to the virus. And but nationally, I think the country like dropped the ball really. And I think a lot of people have to be held accountable. First, China has to be held accountable. And also the Congress people who knew about it and went and, got their stocks and
facts
and, investment out. So those people have to be held accountable for future, generation wise. And also just, the president really, really, as far as communicating. As far as communication wise, like really creating a pandemic. And, when it comes to communicating with, the public, Larry Hogan, for example, and I'm not big on the guy. Like, I would give him his flowers now, but I'm not really big on the guy on other issues, right? Even just communicating and assuring your citizens that, it's a pandemic, but this is what we're doing, and putting that reassurance in people, whether it be financially, whether it be morally, whether it be, emotional, whatever. However you want to call him, 45, Donald Trump, President Trump, whatever, he's a mess. He is a mess. Communication, I think. And I read a report the other day, I don't know if it's true, that CNN, MSNBC, and a couple others except Fox are gonna stop carrying the daily prayer. I think that's fine.
It's needed.
Because that's doing more harm at this point.
Provoking nothing but fear.
Exactly. I think they should.
And then we get, people actually drinking bleach, So yeah, AK, what's your thoughts on it? What's your thoughts, AK?
I mean, I see things a lot different. Um, First off, it's like we already know our president. Well, we already know the president, our president. Let me put it that way. Although some people say it's not my president. You live in the United States. That's your president. Our president. We already know what it's like. You know what I mean? We already know the type of things to say, and people entertaining. I'm like, bro, like, why are we even entertaining? We already know who this man is. You know what I mean? Like, let's focus on really what is real, because all this right here is just noise. It's blocking us. It's shielding us from the real problem. Since he started his elections, he's been shielding away. He's been using different things to like shield us from the real actual problem, and we're still not getting that. You know what I mean? Two is like
he's been good at that.
He's been good at that. He's been great at that. And we also know there's a lot of people. He got a lot of followers. You know what I mean? And I hear people say, "Oh, this Trump people do that." Bro, we already know what is. Let's focus on what isn't, man. Like, we already know what is. Why are we so focused on what is? We can't change that. Let's focus on what isn't. And that's where, to me, I feel like us as a nation, we are so terrible at. We are terrible at, right? Two, when it just comes to this whole thing, well, they knew way ahead, way before even hit in the United States. They knew this. But then, like Flex said, man, people went on pulling out their stuff, you know, their stock and all whatnot. I don't blame them. We live in a capitalist society, right? Hey, if you're privileged enough to get information first, good for you. If you're not, hey, too bad for you, right? But at the same time, just
independent media.
Basic, right? All right. That basic compassion for humanity, right? It's like, yeah, you have money, but still, I live in this great nation, and there are other people living here too, despite their economic status and all whatnot. So let's be reasonable. Let's do something about healthcare, man. For God's sake.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because speaking of healthcare, right, and speaking about, you know, just the presidency, right? So right now, also 2020 is an election year. So prior to this pandemic, we actually had another Democratic candidate running, which was Bernie Sanders. I was actually excited about Bernie Sanders because of, you know, the theories and the ideologies that he was coming up with. It actually sounded wonderful to me, you know, such as universal health care, you know, child care, lifting minimum wage to a living wage of $15 an hour for people like our essential workers, right? So now that he's dropped out, it's like everything that he was saying actually sounds like we need it right now. You know, what he was saying is something that needs to be implemented right now at this very time, because that's what people need. They need their health care for free. They need to be able to take care of their children, because some people still have to go back to work, and then their schools, you know, are necessarily not in session. A lot of states have shut down their schools, districts, for the entire school semester or school academic year. So it's like, when it comes down to healthcare, it's like, I honestly have a hunch that 45 is going to get another 4 years, and I just feel like that's still not something that's on the radar for him, you know, because he's telling people go out and drink bleach instead of actually saying, you know what we're going to do is we're going to do something about these big pharmaceutical companies. We're going to do something about these big, you know, insurance companies. We're going to make sure that every citizen is taken care of. Still to this day, they're saying like, oh, you can't go unless you're showing signs of you're about to die, you know, like what is that, you know, and especially for people walking around who really are asymptomatic, they would never know that they have it until they're really about to die. So the fact that us, you know, here in America, we're not, you know, I guess stable enough where to the point where we can take care of everyone. I think that's a huge problem. And the fact that they can just click $2 trillion dollars out of nowhere, I know for a fact that they can make sure that everyone has health care.
You know, I think to a certain go ahead.
No, finish. What are you about to say?
No, I was gonna say, I think to a certain extent, at least in my state, Maryland, that universal. Because if you have it, you know what I'm saying, like the COVID-19 or coronavirus, and are like, you know what I'm saying, to the brink of can't breathe, cough, the headaches, fever, all that stuff, you can get treated free. And so
why do you have to wait that long, Flex? That's my point. Why do you have to wait that long? Like, why do I have to be on my deathbed almost, you know, in stage 3 of the situation for you to be like, all right, come through, I got it for you. I'm gonna help you all now. Like, come on. Who wants to go all the way there?
So that's my point, right? Like the government can afford it, at least to provide, that universal healthcare or better healthcare system for citizens.
Yes.
So this has proven that in fact can be a thing that can be implemented and successfully.
And think about the people who lost their jobs, and the only thing that they really was keeping their jobs for was because they needed their insurance. If you think about it, a lot of conversations amongst millennials like, yo, I just need my job because they got the benefits. I need these benefits. I'm not taking this job unless they come with some type of benefits, and those
Right.
benefits include health insurance. You know what I mean? So
Right.
think about the people who lost their job who no longer have health insurance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, within all this, I have all these different questions that come to mind. One of the most important questions to me that I have right now at this given time is to parents, right? Parents who drop off the kids at school in the morning and pick them up at 5 p.m. for example.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys feel like, how in terms of importance, where do we put our teachers, right? And I'm saying this from an economic standpoint, right? We pay our teachers less, right? In these times right now, when you get to stay with your kids and see them 24/7,
Yes.
and even help them with the homework or teach them, how do you guys really feel about this?
That homeschooling ain't easy.
Mm-hmm. Bit them right in the butt. Bit them right in the butt. They did not expect that coming. And shout out to our teachers. Shout out to this pandemic truly exposing a lot of gray areas here in America and different states across America. So I appreciate the exposure that this pandemic brought, because when it comes down to these teachers, you're definitely going to have to pay them more. When it comes down to these essential workers, you're definitely going to have to pay them more. There's no such thing as paying a janitor $7.50. No, if you want that janitor in that building taking his risk, he needs a good $20 an hour as well, just like the cashier. So, when it comes down to the exposure, I appreciate what this pandemic did. And when it comes down to the teachers and the students, this is going to be wild, because you got to think about it. Some of these kids weren't even on academic level in some of these urban neighborhoods and some of these public schools. Some of these public schools don't even have the equipment to ship out, tablets or computers, whatever, to all of
Or
these
access to
homes.
Zoom and all that,
Yes, some of these houses were behind on their electricity, so their electricity is on, but at the same time, you're expecting them to pay for Wi-Fi. You're going to give them Wi-Fi, but at the same time, they don't have, a place where they can go and actually learn. They don't have an environment where they can sit down and learn because they have 20 people inside their home at this time, so
yeah.
it's a lot that's going to affect our students and our youth. And I pray that our parents are kicking in and doing what they're supposed to do as parents, because they rely too much on teachers, to do what they were supposed to do in the first place.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's a lot, man, but what I'm saying, people like me gotta make money somehow, like delivering orders. I'm sorry, I gotta run, and we gonna have to leave the conversation right there. But definitely appreciate you, Tamara, a lot for
I
saying, like,
appreciate
the
you
conversation. Definitely, we're gonna link up again, for sure, and hopefully the listeners can glean a lot from what we spoke about, and also and just get in contact with your radio show and everything that you got going. It's dope stuff. I really appreciate it.
Thank you both. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
No doubt,
AK,
no
you
doubt.
good?
Now I'm good. I'm straight, man. I'm straight. To all our listeners, for those listening right now, it's your first time, welcome. Thank you for clicking on that link to listen to us. I'm pretty sure you took one or two things with you, as you go. Hopefully you come back. Follow us on all platforms at SITM Podcast. Our website is sitmpodcast.com. We also host blogs as well. If you want to write for us, feel free to do that. The email link will be right here, footnote. You can shoot us your blog, and we're gonna put that on our platform. Our merch store, shop our merch store. That's how we get this thing going. Reflex got a book that's coming out. His debut novel is coming out.
Order a
5th.
book, man. I'm about to go drop a bunch of orders right now.
Oh, that's what's up, man. Yeah, May 5th. It drops on Kindle. It's gonna be on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, everywhere, pretty much. Yeah, man. Go, buy that thing. Support a young brother. Let's have these conversations, man. Just stuck in the middle. Oh, thank you, P.O.C. For chatting with us. Yeah, follow her as well. This is Stuck in the Podcast, and we out.
We out.
Appreciate it.